Nobody talks about this anymore. But before social media turned street life into entertainment, Brooklyn had real figures whose names carried fear without them ever raising their voice. These were men who didn't need Instagram, YouTube interviews, or viral moments to become legends. Their reputations traveled through whispers, police files, nightclub stories, and street corners. One of those names was Scooter, the Brooklyn General from Church Avenue and Flatbush. To some people, he was a dangerous stick-up kid who became a powerful hustler. To others, he represented the dark glamour of New York's underworld during the late 1980s and 1990s. But one thing everybody agreed on was this: Scooter moved differently, quiet, calculated, ruthless. And the deeper you look into his story, the more you realize it wasn't just about crime. It was about power, respect, betrayal, fear, and the dangerous illusion of fast money that destroyed countless lives. If you're already locked in, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. You're about to hear a story most people don't break down like this. Brooklyn during that era was survival mode. Church Avenue, Flatbush, East New York, Brownsville, Crown Heights. These neighborhoods had energy, style, and culture, but they also carried pressure. The crack epidemic had changed everything. Hustlers were making fortunes overnight while addicts flooded the streets. Violence became normal. Young men grew up believing money and reputation meant survival. And if you didn't hustle, you struggled. That's the environment Scooter came from. Before the luxury cars, jewelry, and nightclub connections, Scooter started on the dirty side of the game. Home invasions, stick-ups, running down on people, kicking in doors, moving off impulse and aggression. This wasn't a sophisticated crime in the beginning. It was raw survival mixed with ambition. And according to the stories surrounding his name, Scooter's crew became feared early. Not because they talked too much, because they moved quietly. That's what made Scooter dangerous. Loud people usually reveal themselves eventually. Quiet people make others nervous because nobody knows what they're thinking. People around Scooter never fully knew his next move, and unpredictability creates fear fast in the streets. Word started spreading around Flatbush and East New York. Scooter was a shooter, but more importantly, he was smart enough to evolve. A lot of stick-up kids stay stuck at the bottom level forever. They rob random people, spend money fast, get arrested, or get killed. But Scooter reportedly understood something bigger. The real money wasn't in random robberies. The real money came from targeting hustlers themselves. Drug dealers carried cash, jewelry, and product, and many couldn't go to police afterward. That made them ideal targets. So Scooter and his crew focused on people already involved in street activity. If somebody lacked protection or moved carelessly, they became vulnerable. And by the time Scooter turned 18 years old, his reputation had already reached dangerous levels. Even serious street figures respected him. That's when another major name entered the story: Haitian Jack. Haitian Jack represented a completely different level of the game. Flashier, more connected, more plugged into nightlife, celebrities, and larger money circles. Through Jack, Scooter reportedly entered a new world entirely. The street robberies slowly transformed into bigger operations. Jewelry deals, club politics, drug distribution, connections to entertainers and high-profile figures. Money started getting serious. Scooter graduated from surviving to living lavishly. Back then, driving a BMW 850 wasn't normal. That car represented elite money during the early 1990s. Luxury vehicles, expensive jewelry, designer clothes, and access to exclusive clubs became symbols of status. And in New York nightlife culture, image meant everything. That's why names like Haitian Jack became legendary. The clubs themselves became dangerous territory too. Places like the Tunnel nightclub weren't regular party spots. They attracted hustlers, rappers, athletes, gangsters, and drug dealers all under one roof. The energy was electric, but violence always hovered nearby. Metal detectors existed, but certain people still walked through untouched because security already knew their reputation. And according to the stories, Scooter moved through those clubs with complete confidence. That confidence alone intimidated people. Because confidence in dangerous environments usually means one thing: the person either has serious backing or serious violence attached to their name. Sometimes both. Then came another twist that connected Scooter's story to hip hop history forever. Tupac Shakur entered the picture. During the early 1990s, Tupac spent time around Haitian Jack, and people connected to that Brooklyn nightlife world. But according to many stories from that era, Mike Tyson allegedly warned Tupac about moving too closely around certain figures. Tyson reportedly told him those men weren't people to underestimate, and eventually, tragedy struck. In November 1994, Tupac was robbed and shot inside Quad Studios in Manhattan just before his court sentencing. That moment became one of the biggest mysteries in hip hop history. Rumors, accusations, and theories still surround the incident decades later. Some people believed it was simply a robbery. Others believed it was deeper than money: power, ego, street politics, disrespect, messages being sent. Over the years, multiple names became attached to the story. Dexter Isaac later publicly claimed involvement in the robbery during interviews. But even after confessions and rumors, questions still remained. And one rumor connected Scooter directly to the aftermath. Stories circulated that jewelry taken from Tupac may have ended up around Scooter afterward. Whether completely true or partly exaggerated by street gossip, the symbolism mattered more than the actual value of the jewelry itself. Because in street culture, taking somebody's chain, watch, or jewelry wasn't just theft. It represented dominance, humiliation, control, especially when the victim was famous. That's what made the Quad Studios shooting so explosive. It permanently changed Tupac's mindset. After that incident, paranoia and distrust intensified around him. Relationships shifted. Alliances changed. The East Coast West Coast tension inside hip hop grew even deeper afterward. And many people still believe that night altered the direction of rap history forever. Meanwhile, Scooter's reputation kept growing, but something separated him from many other street figures. Respect mattered heavily to him. According to stories from people around him, Scooter hated hearing racial slurs casually used around him. He reportedly enforced discipline aggressively when it came to disrespectful behavior. That may sound surprising considering the violence connected to street culture, but old school street figures often carried strict personal codes about certain things. And that's what many outsiders misunderstand. Street figures often lived by their own twisted systems of discipline and morality, even while operating inside criminal lifestyles. As time passed, Scooter reportedly expanded operations far beyond Brooklyn, Virginia, North Carolina, Baltimore, New Jersey. He took Brooklyn's street mentality down south while building larger drug operations. Apartment buildings allegedly became full-time drug spots operating around the clock. Young workers handled shifts while money flowed constantly. At that point, the game changed completely. This was no longer about random stick-ups. This became an organized business. And once organizations grow large enough, federal attention usually follows. That's the part many people ignore when they glorify fast money. Street success creates visibility. Visibility creates investigations. Investigations create indictments. And eventually, the federal government arrived. By the late 1990s, authorities were already building cases quietly: wiretaps, informants, surveillances, financial tracking. The streets often feel untouchable while money is flowing, but federal investigators play long games. And in 1998, everything reportedly collapsed. Scooter became part of a major federal indictment out of the Eastern District of Virginia, one of the toughest federal districts in America. Authorities accused members connected to the operation of drug trafficking, money laundering, conspiracy charges, and obstruction. The government wasn't simply trying to arrest individuals anymore. They wanted entire organizations erased. Dozens of people connected to the alleged operation got hit. Scooter received a life sentence, no parole. just prison walls, steel doors, and decades disappearing inside the federal system. That's the hidden ending most young people chasing street dreams never imagine. The cars disappear. The jewelry disappears. The women disappear. The money disappears. But the sentence stays. And maybe that's the deepest part of Scooter's story, because the lifestyle always looks exciting in the beginning. Fast money feels addictive. Luxury feels addictive. Attention feels addictive. Once people experience real street money, normal life often starts feeling too slow. A regular paycheck no longer satisfies them. The pressure to maintain an image becomes overwhelming. Designer clothes, luxury cars, jewelry, expensive women. Everybody expects the lifestyle to continue. And that pressure traps people deeper. That's how temporary hustles become permanent lifestyles. Then paranoia enters. Now people fear robberies, fear betrayal, fear wiretaps, fear undercover agents, fear enemies, fear their own friends switching sides. So guns become mandatory. And guns create even more legal risk. One traffic stop, one argument, one robbery gone wrong, one undercover setup, and suddenly somebody faces decades in prison or death. That's the cycle. The streets rarely advertise the full cost up front. They sell dreams first. Respect, money, power, women, cars, jewelry, but eventually the bill arrives. And the payment usually comes through blood, freedom, or betrayal. That's why Scooter's story creates mixed emotions. Some people hear these stories and feel respect for the fearlessness, charisma, and power connected to that era. Others hear pure destruction and wasted potential. Both reactions are understandable, because behind every legendary street story are damaged communities, grieving families, prison sentences, addiction, and lives destroyed by cycles that kept repeating generation after generation. Still, despite spending decades incarcerated, Scooter's name reportedly never completely lost weight. People still visited him. Old connections still showed loyalty. Some figures from that era disappeared entirely once prison came. Others became forgotten stories. But certain names remain alive in New York history. Scooter became one of them. And now, after serving more than 20 years, conversations about possible release dates have sparked interest again. That alone says a lot, because even after decades behind bars, people still remember the name, not because they celebrate prison, but because names attached to fear and power during New York's darkest eras tend to live forever in street mythology. And maybe the biggest lesson hidden inside Scooter's story is this: the streets never truly give people freedom. They only rent people temporary power. Eventually, everybody pays something back. Some pay with years, some pay with trust, some pay with graves. And by the time many realize the dream was built on quicksand, it's already too late. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps push the video more into the algorithm. Also, check out the merch in the description.